Hi, this is Professor Lilly, and I just want to talk about where we are in Module 3 and about to go into Module 4. So, right now I'm recording this on Friday, and so this is the end of the data collection wiki tool or tool wiki week. And so I just want to make a few comments. I've enjoyed looking at what everyone's done so far in the wiki. Looks like people are working together well. And I just want to make a comment about each one of these. So the qualitative surveys, um, yeah, those are, and again, I want to stress that just because you worked on one of these topics for the data collection tool wiki, it doesn't mean you have to end up using it for your research project this semester. And part of the reason of doing the wiki is that if you choose to use a different method or tool, then you can come back to the wiki and look at the page for that tool that you're thinking of using, and then you'll see what the best practices are for actually using it. So for the survey is I think is good for getting a sense of trends and kind of areas of agreement and disagreement when surveying a particular user group. And because you can get maybe 30 or 40 people, and if all of them agree about one aspect of their experience or their opinions, then that's not statistically viable with a survey where you really want to find out if a population of people agree on something. You have to survey thousands of people, but it does give you a sense of how people feel about a particular experience or a particular app, emerging media platform, whatever it is your topic is. And so you can start out with some demographic questions, some closed-ended questions, but you still are trying to get that qualitative set aspect. So you want to have several open-ended questions to get real detailed answers. But you won't get as much detail as you will with an in-depth interview. Um, People have different opinions about how many people you have to interview to get enough depth or enough data to answer research questions. Um, the in the textbook that we didn't read many chapters of it, but qualitative inquiry says to interview a small number, like 4 or 5 people, but that's really sitting down with them for a couple hours and really picking their brain about their experience or their opinion. So you're getting really in-depth answers from those people. Or you can go the route where you interview a larger number, let's say 10 or 15 people for a shorter amount of time. But regardless, you should be able to get from them some really good detailed answers about their experiences or opinions on whatever your topic is. And it looks like this group got some pretty good information on how to conduct them. For no one, I think someone, I have to go back to the voice thread. I can't remember if anyone actually signed up for focus groups. Um, but which surprises me because they're actually, I think, pretty effective. So the way my students have used them before, if they found people through Facebook, or else they invited them to be friends on Facebook, and they conducted a Facebook, a private message chat over the course of several days. So you invite all of them to the chat, and then you give out an initial topic or question you want them to start talking about, and then they start kind of responding to each other. So it kind of is being a real true conversation oftentimes, and then you can steer that question, like maybe after people have been talking throughout the day. Then maybe you can ask a follow-up question, or you can steer the conversation in a different direction by saying, okay, well, yesterday we talked about this, but today I want to move forward and talk about this other topic. And so those conversations often last like 3 or 4 days, and you have all the transcript already built in because you're using Messenger, so you're able to, rather than having to sit down and transcribe the whole text. If you had sat down in a face-to-face focus group in a room and recorded the audio, well, you already have the transcripts right there, so you can go right into analyzing the data and trying to figure out what it means. So I think focus groups are actually pretty effective, and that you get similar sometimes data to an interview, but sometimes it'll end up going in unexpected ways, and which can be really good. Like, so you can get topics that you didn't think were there. And so sometimes the problem with interviews is that you just have two people leading the discussion, whereas in a focus group you have more voices, and sometimes you get surprising and really good results from that. So I do encourage, if anyone's thinking about interviews, to maybe consider focus groups. But I think either one for most topics would be okay. And for participant observation, we don't have anyone in there right now. For some of you who are looking at web-based practices, like Facebook, like how people use Facebook in a certain way, or how people address certain audiences using blogs, I do encourage you to work participant observation into your study, and mention that as being maybe the secondary mode of data collection. So, take screen captures, observe what people are saying in whatever platform, and include that the screen captures are your own observations in your results. So those, for several of you, I think participant observation would be kind of a secondary way of collecting data. And in case studies, there will be multiple points of data, right? So you can do some interviews. I mean, and it really is all about a particular case. So I've had students who researched one nonprofit's use of or struggling through how to use social media. So looking at that one particular case to kind of get broader insights. So that student interviewed two people at the nonprofit, took a whole bunch of screen captures and recorded their social media usage, was able to reach out and interview a couple people who followed the nonprofit on social media to get their opinion, and then they also got the policies that the nonprofit had written up about how they intend to do social media. So it's like multiple points of data, trying to better understand this one particular case. I've had a student who looked at one hospital's use of social media. I've had a student who looked at ESPN and as a case study for how they use social media. So you're looking at one particular case and getting multiple data points to be able to answer whatever your research questions are. So yeah, I think that the wiki is going well. If you haven't had time this week to work on it, then please do post to it today and or this weekend. So remember that I changed things up a little bit, and so that next week I want you to focus on the mini lit reviews, and I have the mini lit review blog. So that's the one and only activity for next week, is the mini lit review. I posted an example here from last semester, and it looks like Matthew has already started his, or maybe he's completed his at this point, which is great. And again, I stress that for most of these assignments, I am trying to keep it really wide open in terms of what day to post it by, because I know that all of you are working and have families and so on and so forth. And again, you're really looking for literature that helps you to better understand your topic. These could be experts writing online. It could be industry groups writing policy papers or white papers. I do want you to try to find some academic literature, and I've posted a couple of different things about how to go about doing. Let's see if I can find it. Literature reviews. So if you haven't looked at that, do click on this where it says how to do a literature review. And I found a video where this guy goes through kind of the basics of it, and a link here on how to do it. And then I've also linked to 2 resources on Loyola's library website. I do think that once you log in with your Loyola credentials to the library, it's great because whatever database you go through to search with key terms on your topic, you generally can get full PDF downloads. Whereas if you just went to Google Scholar, for example, they would show you a lot of good stuff, but you wouldn't be able to get the full PDF downloads. But Google Scholar is one of the databases that you can get through Loyola. And so once you log in and then do Google Scholar, you get all these full PDF views where you can look through whatever the article is and find information germane to your topic. So again, yeah, so I've given you the full week next week to do that because it is really important to starting out your research, and it'll help you kind of better understand your topic and maybe even change your research questions for your project. One of the things that generally when you're doing research is that you want to answer questions that other experts haven't provided the answers to. Or haven't looked into a certain area or a certain user group or asked certain questions about people's experiences or opinions. So that's another one of the purposes behind the mini-lit review. So that's next week, and then the week after that will be Module 3. I'm sorry, so Module 3 ended up taking up 2 weeks, this week and next week, and then we'll move on to Module 4. Okay, and so that's where you do the actual project proposal, and basically the proposal is saying, okay, here's what my plan is, here's what my topic is, here's what my research questions are, and here's what I'm going to do. So I've given you 2 options for that, and the first one is to do a presentation. So most of you, if you think forward to actually doing your research project and then presenting it, there are 2 options for this class. So you can write a traditional research paper, which is about a 15-page paper, and I'll give you more details on that. I'm sure all of you have written a similar research paper in undergraduate. Or last semester, most people chose to do this, you can do a presentation. And those presentations, the very first week this semester, you saw examples of. So they're the long Prezi presentations that usually take someone about 12, 15, 20 minutes to go through those presentations. And so using that as a way to present your findings for your project. So since most of you will be doing presentations at the end of the semester to present your findings, I've given options to do a presentation to tell me and your other students what you're going to do for your project. And so and within this option, there are a couple different things you could do. You could do a Prezi, and I think Prezis are a really great way to be able to present on any kind of topic. And it's for free. You can say that you're doing it for educational uses and you don't have to pay. And so if you do the Prezi, and I will post an example of a project proposal Prezi from last semester so you see what it looks like. Obviously it doesn't have to be like something that would take a viewer 15 or 20 minutes to go through. Something that, a couple minutes maybe for me or someone else to go through. And so, but the end result of the Prezi is a link. So I put up a project proposal blog, and in the blog you just say your name and say what the topic is, and say here's the link to my Prezi, and then so that other students and myself can click on it and see what your idea is. Or there's a couple other options. I mean, if you were really good at making videos, then you can make a video. With PowerPoint, you can add audio annotation to PowerPoints and then turn it into a video. So you could do that, create a PowerPoint and then add audio annotation, export it as a video, put it on YouTube, and then put the link on the blog. Okay. Another option is you can make a PowerPoint presentation and you can upload it to VoiceThread. So I'll create a VoiceThread assignment that's an assignment where you can create your own voice thread, like and you would upload the PowerPoint presentation, and then for each slide in PowerPoint, it would create a slide in VoiceThread. And so for each one of those, you can go through and add audio annotation or audio narration in the form of a comment, or even a video if you want to put your face in there for each one of those slides, saying what you want to say about the slide. So that might be a little bit easier than doing annotation through PowerPoint and then adding it to YouTube. Okay, so that's all one option. So the second option is doing an IRB proposal. So what's that? So that's Institutional Review Board. So the government has said that any institution that does research and gets money from the federal government has to review any research that has to do with human subjects. So we would be doing, or you would be doing, research with human subjects because you are asking people questions through interviews or surveys or whatever your data, with the possible exception of observation wouldn't be included in that. But you only have to be reviewed if you intend to maybe publish your findings in some kind of proceedings, or if you're doing it for your work or something and it was going to become part of an official report, so it becomes public in some way. And so I imagine that most of you, this is not the case. But I will go ahead and next week add a video on how to do the IRB proposal and a link to the website at Loyola. You have to go online and take this federal government training that just talks about ethics and things like that. I mean, to be honest, it's more applicable to the sciences where people are being poked with needles, or psychology where they might be put through some stressful psychological test. It doesn't apply so much to the type of questions that you're asking. Now, one caveat here is if you also have to do an IRB proposal if you're doing anything with people under 18, so minors. So even if you're not going to have it published, if you're interviewing or talking to or doing research on children, you have to go through the IRB process. So anyway, if you are interested in doing the IRB option, then let me know. But there will be resources under Module 4 that explain how to do it. So these things down here I have to change up. I have to add the blog, and I have this turn it in, but I'm going to hide that because we're not going to do it that way. But I'll make some of these lives, like link to Loyola's IRB site, yeah, and then I'll add a video. This video is old, so I'm going to add a new one on how to do the IRB. But remember, this is just an option. Okay, so after that week, Module 4, and once I give you the green light, I've talked to most of you. I think there's only 1 or 2 people I have to talk to about your idea. And again, the idea behind the presentation is not just for me to get an even better idea of what you want to do, but it's also for you to be able to hone down your idea and really structure it and think specifically how am I going to do this. And again, for the option 1, I will post an example of a research proposal presentation that I thought was good from last year. And then after that, Module 5 is just going out and doing your research. So if you propose to do interviews with 5 people, then start scheduling your interviews with them and doing them. During that module, I will put out some reading to do associated with how to analyze data once you've gotten it, and I'll do a video associated with that. For those of you who are doing surveys, Qualtrics is a free, and it's a really good survey tool that's used for Loyola students. So this is a link to it, like how to use it, and and you create your own password, and you create the survey. So if you're doing a qualitative survey, then I really recommend you do this. If you did something like SurveyMonkey, it's kind of tricky because they'll let you create one for free, and then you'll do it, and then they'll say, okay, if you really want all the data, now you have to pay us. And that's not the case for Qualtrics, so I recommend you use that. And so basically, in the second half of October and the 1st of November, you're collecting your data. Then you'll start analyzing it, and then you will begin to create your presentation or your paper. And then right before Thanksgiving, you will turn into me a rough draft of your paper or your Prezi presentation. So that's kind of where we're going. And so anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing your Mini-Lit reviews. Let's see, where are we? In next week. All right, so have a great weekend, and as always, email me if you have any questions or confusions.